Hello, my name is Michael Samuel Webb, and in this tutorial we are in Lab 7, and in this lab for class we're using Windows Server Data Center 2016. I'm using Windows 10 VirtualBox. We're using Windows 10 a VM, a hyper server VM, and a domain server VM. We're using Windows 10 Enterprise as our remote PC, remoting into our domain controller, and via switch controlling our HyperV. And on top of that HyperV, we're going to be installing another version of the Windows Data Center 2016 server. So we're going to get started. First off, I am going to go through the download process. First, this is my network here. From here up is the network that we've been using for the class. As you can see, I have server DC running, I have this running, and then I've created a HyperV using a HyperV ISO image to control. And so first off, we're going to go into this HyperV server, and we are going to go through the steps of setting this up. As you can see, it's HyperV server 2012 R2. We're going to add this HyperV, we're going to add this to our class, which I have already done, but we're going to go through the steps and show you. This is the free edition, so it is a core edition. But you can run, as you know, you will be able to, once you run this HyperV and you load this HyperV onto the HyperV onto your server remote via our Windows 10, you'll be able to run a GUI interface other than this core interface, and can be able to do it completely for free. So first off, if you want to start your domain, you would just enter the option number here. You have two control centers here. You have your CMD, and then you have the core version of the server. So in this one, we would hit option, and then we would choose D for our domain, and of course we're going to use our class 2027 D. And to join the domain, you would want to first off, before you join the domain, you would want to alright, it shows that we've already joined the domain. So then we would go into our computer name, which is HP server, which you would just simply follow the prompters down through and get everything set up. Of course, you would want to enable your remote desktop. For the sake of just showing, we'll just go through, say, step 2. Enter the new computer name, which would be HB, and it's server, and there you are. which it would cause. You'd need a reboot. So then you'd want the user specified username. Alright, so then after we've named it, we wanted to configure our remote management. So you just hit 4 and then you would want to enable that. You'd want you can set these to manual. I don't like this to ever be auto. Download and install updates, you want to do that yourself. Remote desktop, you want to go through and select to enable it, and then your network settings, which ours is 10.1.1.5 with a /24, which you want to keep everything in the same subdomain to keep you from having any issues. So, and then you just simply want to restart your computer, and then voila, you have your setup, and you'll have your screen just like this, and you'll be joined to class 22 domain, which is our domain controller domain. So we have this completed. Then we will go back into our enterprise, and from here we want to go into our server manager. Alright, so now from our server manager we are going to want to add our HyperV server. So since we added it to the domain, we'll go in, we'll hit 5 now, and then we'll find right here it pops up HyperV server R12. Send it over. Alright, there it is. It pulls up our IP address, shows that we are online, and we are sending information back and forth. There's one way on here that you can use, because we are at our Windows, we're on our Windows Enterprise. So there's one way that we could go in here and actually use our we could actually go into here, and then we could remote desktop into our server and utilize it that way, one way from our remotely, or we can use our PowerShell and do our configurations remotely that way. But also from here you can go to your manager, and you'll have to do it as you're setting it up. You'll want to go through and you'll want to add roles. I'm having some issues here with my actual data center because I don't have an AMD processor, so I'm using VirtualBox for my VMs, and I don't have AMD. So in order to add features, you would want to install your HyperV. Say if I did have an AMD processor, or if my processor was strong enough to use a VMware, I would use this. I would download this and be able to go into it and download and put the server 2016 on the HyperV machine. So actually have it kind of like have it stacked, so to say, in the HyperV, on the HyperV server. Have another server running inside of that, but in this case I don't, so I just had to provide you with that information. But one thing we can do from here, and that you have to do, is on your HV server, after it's you've given it its IP address and you have joined the class, you'd want to go to next, and you want to install these roles so that everything is installed, and then of course next, and then make sure you have all of your things supported, say like 32-bit and your 4.5 features installed. So we'll cancel here, and we have our HyperV in access here. So now we will take and look at our, keeps pulling up my prompter here, our server, whereas on HyperV what we would use, okay, because because of my Windows 10 Enterprise and the PC that I'm on, as well as VirtualBox, does not support, since I do not have an AMD processor. And at the beginning of the lab, I used Windows 8. I have a Windows 8 version that I'm going to get started up here for us, and I will show you what it looks like inside if we were to create our 2016 server on the HyperV, inside of the HyperV server. So let's do that. Let's go. Alright, let's go find our Windows 8.1 Pro, and we'll get this guy started. And this is where I actually was able to get the HyperV manager and everything to come to work. So we'll get this guy started, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, here we are on the outskirts of Windows 8.1 Professional, which is another platform that you can use as well, aside from Windows 10, as long as you have it connected to your domain. Using it remotely is absolutely fine. Let's see. Alright, here we are on the inside of our Windows 8. Our Windows 8 remote machine. We'll go down here to our manager, which in this edition you have a connector, which if you wanted to connect to a server, you could just use your dial-in information here and connect remotely, but we are going to use this HyperV manager. And from our HyperV manager, we are going to connect to server. We are going to connect to another computer that's inside of our domain, which is our HyperV server. Alright, it pulls it up. There we are. Okay, and then once we started this service, we would then be able to load the server 2016 directly onto here and be able to start it and manage it from here. Alright, well, This has been a brief tutorial, and sorry that I could not log in to a lot of the other um, uh, platforms due to software and hardware and flood issues. Uh, but we have went over actually connecting, creating a Hyper-V server, um, setting it up, uh, designating it to a domain, while having our domain controller running. You always have to have these running virtually. When you're running a virtual network, it just works just like a network. You know, this is just the network here. Um, and then using two separate platforms, using Windows 10 and then Windows 8.1 Professional, to show you that once you could activate and turn this state to on, and then it would open up a GUI interface of your Hyper-V server, and then you can then create a 2016 server on this Hyper-V server itself. So again, we've been using Windows database. Our initial platform's Windows database 2016. I'm using Oracle's VirtualBox. We've used 8.1 and Windows 10, and this has been Lab 7. Putting together a Hyper-V, creating a Hyper-V, and putting together a HyperV network. Alright, and I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next lab.